Hi everyone, this is Teresa, and I'd like to share a story with you. As you can see, one of the words in my name has the word tail, and this story will be just like that, a tale, and I hope you enjoy it. I have a friend named Emily, and we have been friends for quite a few years. And it's rather unfortunate on my part that I have not been stoking or nurturing the friendship. It's more like we talk to one another now and then. And when we do, the conversations are awesome. We talk about man, about life, our parents, and everything under the sun, even our jobs. We both have pets, and that pretty much is the the main topic that we usually talk about. And recently, I've decided, this is not a good friendship that I'm having with her. It's got to be more more nurtured. I don't know what word to use. I've treated the friendship, I guess you would consider like a cactus. As a cactus, you don't water it frequently. You just do it every so often. And that's exactly how I've been treating our friendship. And again, I have thought that this is no way to treat a friend that I really enjoy. So up until recently, I started nurturing the friendship, asking her if she'd like to go shopping with me, going out for coffee, and sometimes going out to eat. And we've also spent some time just having dinner together at each other's houses and just having some really good quality time together. Anyway, one day I heard of a friend that had a cabin up in the mountains. So I decided, man, that sounds cool, just to get away. And it was during the month of December, I guess. It was cold, and there was some light snow. It wasn't heavy snow, it was pretty much light snow. And I asked Emily about it, and she thought, oh, how much fun that would be. And we'd just have we would have some really good quiet time together, having a fire. And this cabin, I understand, was owned by a family. So, again, we just, through someone else, that's how I found out about it. So anyway, Emily is working, and so she got off on a Friday. Picked her up in the SUV, and we packed some goodies. We brought some warm clothes, heavy boots, and a flashlight in case we needed to step outside for one reason or another. So again, we got it in my SUV, and we made the trek. Excuse me, we made the trek. And where we went to was rather, it was a ski town. It was a ski town. But, and this cabin was near, what do you call it? A ski resort. I'm not sure the name, with their name. And so anyway, she was more of a skier than I was, certainly. And so the next day, so we got up there, had some cocoa, had a fire, made a fire, and just really got into some good conversations. I guess that was the first time I really understood her. Like I said, it's been more of what I would consider a cactus relationship / friendship. So it was just really good to know her, and find out more about her. So the cabin that we went to was just a little cabin. It wasn't very big. Had beautiful, beautiful windows, big windows that you would imagine a cabin up in the mountains to have. Very cozy, very cozy. There was a good-sized fireplace. What do you call it? Those rock pebbles that were in the wall. It was just the rock pebbles were on the fireplace, and the walls and many of the walls around the house were sponged. I can't think of the term for it. Faux painting. That's what it was, faux painting. And just beautiful, just a beautiful coloring. And she picked out a room, very, very cabin looking. The bed, above the bed was limbs of those pine cone limbs, and beautifully decorated with blues and browns, and there were pictures of different kinds of flowers above it. And on the bedding was a beautiful, nicely colored quilt. So she picked that room. And I, on the other hand, went into the other room across the hall. And it was decorated, what do you want to call it, with twigs. Twigs surrounded the frame of the bed, and tree twigs were most of the decor of my bedroom. It also had pictures of bears and wildlife. And Emily's room was more decorated with bugs and butterflies and flowers. And as you went down the hall, again, everything was more cabin related. You had pictures of bears and deer. And as you go in the living room, you find a moose coat hanger. It was just a beautiful, restful place. And we watched, as we traveled up there, we saw the sun going down. Oh, was it a beautiful, beautiful sunset? With all those different colors of oranges and dark colors surrounding it. And it was just, and the trip up there was just, it couldn't have been better. We ran into wildlife, a few deer went across the road. And so anyway, that was some background information on what the cabin looked like. So anyway, we're there, and we decided to, there was a place down the road that had tamales that we were thinking about, but now we decided to go up to the ski lodge. And it was so, I never, that was my first time at a ski lodge, because like I said, Emily likes to ski, and I'm not really in for it. I tried it many years ago, and another friend of mine told me to put in orange in my jacket, so that way in case I got hungry, then I would have that orange to snack on. And I didn't, and I wasn't very good at it, and I just kept slipping and falling on my bottom, and just decided that that just wasn't for me. But anyway, on the other hand, Emily just thoroughly enjoyed it. So we go up to the lodge for a meal, for dinner, and we both ordered a glass of wine and had a really good dinner. Steak dinner with a mashed potato and some really good vegetables. And again, we just talked and giggled and laughed, and we spent a time there. And there was I guess like any ski lodge, they had a beautiful fireplace, big fireplace that had wood in it, and it was just bursting with little flames of sparks, and the way the underneath, how it just lit up with it, just to me it just, or the ash, I guess, is that what you call it, and it was just lit up with what I've always thought of as like a little town, just all those little hot marks and scattered all around on the bottom, and it just reminded me of just a little town. Very lit up. So I really enjoyed that, and there were so many. I wouldn't say so many people. There was quite a few people there having a drink with other people, and we just sat there looking at, talking, and there was a big picture window overlooking where people go skiing, and the little town that we were in. Just beautiful. I have just never seen anything like that. Anyway, after our meal, we went back up to our cabin, and we were so tired. She skied, and I just kind of hung out and watched the other people. And so, I don't know, for whatever reason, we just decided to go take a walk. So we went, and there was just this little trail, and neither of us obviously had never been on this trail. So anyway, I asked Emily, "Do you want to go?" And she said, "Sure." So, by the way, this trail really didn't have a lot of snow, because the trees on both sides of the trail were thick, and just because of that, not much snow just filtered onto the ground, so it just made walking on it just a very nice path to walk. And by the way, we did bring our little flashlights, because it was rather dark. So anyway, and on each side it just have some little lighting, just to let you know that you were on this little walkway. And we just enjoyed putting our flashlights on and scoping the ground and giggling and laughing. And we told tales of our mountain experiences and what we used to like about being up there and what we did. So anyway, we're walking along, and all of a sudden we came up to another little cabin, and there was a elderly woman that I guess spotted us. And from what I had heard, the town was a very friendly town. Even, being a ski resort, there were people were somewhat, I wouldn't say somewhat, they were a very close-knit group, because a lot of the skiers were from around town, and there were a lot of people that knew each other. So anyway, that's kind of like the hospitality she gave us. She was very friendly, and she spotted us. She said, "Girls, I guess you're taking a walk, and you guys look so cold," she said. And so she said, "Would you like to come in for a cup of cocoa?" And we looked at each other. We didn't say anything, but we just kind of glanced at each other like, "Sure." So Emily told her, "Sure, that'd be fine." So anyway, as we walked in, again, very, very homey a little cabin. I mean, it's just like what you would picture in a storybook. It was lit. I mean, you could obviously see that they had all the, I don't know what you call it, all the amenities for a cabin, the lighting, and it was beautiful. But instead of putting on the lights, they just had the fireplace on. And so as she was preparing the hot cocoa, there was an elderly gentleman that came into the room, and he looked at us and just as warmly as could be, saying, "Hello, girls." And we looked at him, and we kind of slightly giggled, just because, just the tone of his voice, just like as if he had known us all our lives. And so he looked at his wife as if he was saying that he approved of her making cocoa for us. And so again, we were sitting all close to the fire, and the couches there were very comfortable. And the unusual thing about this cabin is it just was lit up, with different Christmas lights. And they had some people there, being very busy. Didn't know what they were being busy about, but you'd just see them in the background doing their own thing. You'd hear a couple noises out there, and coming from the other side of the hallway, and you'd see them coming in and in the living room, but not disturbing anything. But they just come in, being very busy looking for something, and then they just probably stare into space and gave us a look like, "I guess it's not here," and went back into the back room. So anyway, we're talking, and being the fact that they had been living up in the mountains much longer than us, he started to tell us stories. Never got their names. Just, I don't know why, but it just did not seem important to us at the time. We were just overwhelmed. Emily and I were just very overwhelmed with their hospitality and their extreme friendliness. So again, he was the gentleman, the elderly gentleman started to tell us stories how, he had stories of different lands, and he had, it was, I guess it was surprising to both Emily and I how much he knew about different countries and could tell us stories of different cultures. It was, he told us he had been doing this for a very long time. Was well acquainted with a lot of the mayors and political leaders there. And so anyway, he was just telling us stories of that, but more importantly, he was telling us stories of the area where he lived at. And he told us of different towns and how they got their names and what each little town was known for. And we were just enthralled. We were listening to it. One town he had told us about was, for a very long time, was known as a ghost town. I mean, it had been there for obviously a very long time. And it had these houses that were obviously emptied. That were obviously empty. No one was living in there. And he told us about the different people that had been there and what they did and where they worked. And he had told us that when you stepped inside, it was like all of a sudden the air that surrounded him, it was just like he went in from one dimension to another dimension. And he was telling both Emily and I how you could practically feel their presence, like if their aura just never left. And sometimes he'd swear that he smelled cookies and hot bread and just a different assortment of goodies, and he just really enjoyed it. In another town, he said there was a school, and many of the town folk their children went to school there, and the teachers were just simply amazing. They enjoyed teaching. There was no political issues there. It was just a really nice, friendly school. And when they made crafts, they were all about the mountains, making pictures, cutting pictures of moose and mountains and skiers and bears. And they learned a lot. They especially learned a lot about history. And that was just their main focal point, he was telling us. Because it was, being the fact that they lived in the mountains, they wanted to let them know about where they lived and about what culture, what kind of people lived there before they became part of that region or grew up there. And he was just telling us all kinds of little stories. He was telling us stories about all kinds of people that he met, and there were times where his wife went with him a time or two. She told us that she really wasn't the traveling folk, but a time or two she would enjoy going with him. And during those times that he was not traveling and getting to know people, he was just busy at home, taking care of things at the house, chopping wood, bringing wood inside for their fireplace. And he was the main cook. She really wasn't a cook herself, but what she did like to make was bread and different types of bread, like banana bread, cinnamon bread, blueberry bread. She loved to cook, or I should say bake. She loved to bake. And this gentleman, because of all the workers, just that were in his back area, that, making all these clanking sounds, he said he was kind of overseeing them on the projects that they were doing. So again, we were just chit-chatting and just talk, and Emily and I told him about gave him some, shared with both him and his wife stories about ourselves. Emily was rather the more active one of us. She was just more involved in her community, helping people. She loved to help people. And she volunteered a couple of hours on the weekend for community service. She loved to she loved to be with older people. So she'd come in and just talk, just keep them company. And that's what she loved to do. Me, on the other hand, I was more of a quiet sort of people. I would stay home and be on my computer. Unfortunately, till the wee hours of the morning. I had a part-time job. And I loved to read. And I would read different stories. And my favorite stories were stories about dogs. I love dogs. I have a couple of my own, and they're all small dogs, beautiful dogs, and they've been with me for a very long time. So we told him about that. He had asked us why we came up to the mountains, and I had told him that Emily and I are friends, and we just decided to come up to the mountains just for a weekend, just to spend some quality time together, that we didn't spend much time together as friends. So we told him stories about that. It was getting late, so it was time for Emily and I to head back to our cabin, which again, it wasn't very far from their house. So as his wife saw us leave, she decided to give us some of her own baking goods. She loaded us up with some homemade cookies that were so delicious. Peanut butter cookies, chocolate chip, banana bread, and even some peppermint candy, done differently. So good. Oh, it was just so yummy. And she also did her own style of hot chocolate, so she gave us a bottle of that. And as the four of us were saying our goodbyes, they hugged each of us and gave us a light kiss on our cheeks. And they told us that if we were ever in the neighborhood, to come stop by. And the both of them, as we were leaving, she said, I'll be right back. So she went to her kitchen, she got a pen and a paper, and she just wrote a little note. And so she handed us to us and closed the door behind them. And Emily and I were just talking on the way back to our cabin, just saying, man, were the both of them friendly. You know, and I really enjoyed talking to him, or excuse me, to the both of them. And it just, she told me that, she says, I was just really surprised of how much this elderly gentleman has traveled. I mean, it was just like as if he knew a little bit about something in a lot of places, in a lot of countries. It just really surprised her. You know, and I was thinking, I was thinking the same thing. So anyway, when we finally approached our cabin, it was cold and on our walk, and we just came in back into our warm little home, and again we lit the fireplace and just finding a cozy place on the couches to hang out. And I went over there in the kitchen to warm up the cocoa that she had made for us. And so afterwards, I brought a cup for her and for myself, and opened a package of the good assortment of goodies and treats that they had both given us. And we began to talk again, and I told Emily, I said, Emily, I almost forgot. I said, she wrote that. That woman gave us a note, and we never opened it or whatever. So I'm gonna go to my jacket a minute and go pull out that note and see what she read, or excuse me, see what she wrote on it. So anyway, I go to the hooks where our scarves, gloves, and jackets were at, and I could just feel the warmth still lingering on the jacket. And I went in my pocket and found this little note so by the time we got to our cabin, it was rather crumply, but anyway, I had to uncrumple it. And I sat down again on the couch next to the fireplace, and I told her, Emily, what a beautiful note. And it's just really, really strange note. I don't know what to say. And Emily told me, she says, Teresa, read it. And I said, okay. And it was a note that she said, my husband and I just wanted to let you know that we were so happy to meet you, and really enjoyed our conversation, and we hope you enjoyed ours as well. We also hope that you enjoyed the treats that were made for you, and we hope to see you again. And I told Emily, I don't understand their signature. And she says, why? And I said, well, it says, we welcome you back, Mr. and Mrs. Claus. And that's my tale to you all this evening. And I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, relax and be well. Bye-bye.